Hello. This is Kyra Nielsen with Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. So today we have a special guest with us. I had this idea. Someone suggested that I do like a recurring segment and suggested that I kind of come up with a theme and things that I could like do several episodes about. And so I came up with an idea to interview FSY counselors that I know. And so I text my friend Emma, and she's here with us today. We know each other. We were together in Williamsburg, Virginia for 3 weeks, and then we traveled to College Park, Maryland for 1 week. So we actually spent like a good chunk of our lives together, a good month of FSY.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Emma? Any other things I'm missing?
Oh, I mean, I'm honored to be your first FSY person on the podcast. Don't know how I made the cut, but yeah, we knew each other for most of the summer. I knew it would be a great friendship when you gave me your bottle of shampoo because I was the least prepared counselor there
It's
and
funny.
did not pack shampoo or something else important. I can't remember, but sorry, were you about to say
Oh,
something?
I was just going to say, I was actually following a prompting because I brought complete whole bottles of shampoo. And then I had these tiny little containers that I had like previously, but since I could bring a checked bag, I like brought actual, bottles. And normally I wasn't going to put it in there, but then it was like, hey, it doesn't hurt, put it in there. And so I was like, okay, so I did, and then, it all worked out. But yeah, I almost didn't put them in there, so I'm glad that I did. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And now
definitely from God.
every time she washes her hair, no, I'm just kidding.
No, I really do. I
Okay,
think about you.
that's adorable. Okay, so tell us
And
about
that
you.
shampoo lasted.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I am from California, Southern California, and I'm a student at BYU now. And like has been said, I did FSY this past summer. Now I have a job as a librarian and I'm studying journalism. So that's a little bit about me. I served a mission a year ago in Arizona. So those are kind of the big things. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to know?
I mean, I think you got it. Just curious, are you going to apply to be an FSY counselor next year?
I've been so on the fence about it. One of my really good friends applied and wants to do it for his first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been back and forth. I'm trying to do an internship, so I'm not sure how it would work out.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to apply and then kind of have it as a backup in
Yeah,
case.
and then you can just like
So,
drop the contract or whatever if you don't want to do it.
right. Are
Yeah,
you going to do it again?
I actually am hired. Yeah, I did. So,
Are you going to be a counselor again? You going to be an
yeah.
assistant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I actually got an email to invite me to be an assistant coordinator, but you have to be 21 and I'm not 21. And so I emailed back and I was like, why am I getting this email? And they're like, you have to be 21. So I'm like, okay, so I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I know I thought about doing coordinating
Mm-hmm.
because higher salary, but then I think about the cool experiences as a counselor and
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd
You
want
could
to
do
give that
some of
up.
both.
So
That's the thing though. Because
I know.
the new update is if you are a coordinator or an assistant coordinator 1 week, you get paid as that the whole summer, even if you're a counselor other weeks. Did you know that?
I know I saw that. That was what was tempting me.
I'm
So I'll
like,
probably apply for multiple positions. I don't know. But
yeah, if I was 21, I would. Okay, so why did you choose to be an FSY counselor this last summer?
it's a great question. I have found that most of my life decisions are kind of spontaneous. Like if I feel prompted to do
True.
something or I feel like something sounds good, then I'll just do it without thinking too much. So Bonnie H. Corden, the Young Women's General President, came into one of my lectures at BYU
Did she throw you a pack
last
of
winter.
gum?
She did not.
Okay.
That would have been cool. No, she just came in with a little presentation saying, sign up for FSY, great experience, try something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I just in that moment was like, okay, I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
then I applied and got the job. So
Yeah.
it's really great.
I wonder how many counselors she recruited, because I know of a few other counselors when she walked into their classroom and then she threw like packs of gum at some people, and then if they caught the gum, she was like, consider it. So I wonder how many she got. That's kind of crazy.
I know. It didn't even really feel like a logical decision. Like, is this the way I can make the most money, or is this
Yeah.
the thing I want to do the most? No, it was just like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a service opportunity, even though you get paid. Okay,
yes.
what is a funny story about your experience as a counselor?
um, I feel like there were lots of funny things that the kids
So
would just
true.
say all the
So
time.
true.
So it was just kind of funny in general. But I think um one week that stands out was when you were with me for this in Virginia. We had kind of a disaster on the campus getting everyone's luggage and rooms
Oh
figured
my
out.
gosh,
So it's
so
kind of a
true.
crazy.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my kids were just like dragging their suitcases around. The schedule was totally thrown off. And
Mm-hmm.
then, oh, you'll have to help me remember the timeline. Was it that night or the night after that
Um,
we had the fire alarm?
oh my goodness. Was that the same week?
It was the same week as the crazy luggage situation.
Oh my goodness. I did not know that.
I don't think it was the very first night that they were in the new
Yeah, I
place,
think
but
it might
like
have been the second
the
night.
second night.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I could totally go back and check, so I will after this. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was like 2 in the morning. I had been
Mm-hmm.
asleep for maybe an hour. The fire alarm goes off, and I was just like, what is happening? So out of it. And then
Yeah.
we were standing in the parking lot. My girls were all just like, what? I didn't
Yeah.
have shoes on. I didn't have a bra on. I just had like my phone and my room card were the only things I thought
Oh
were
my
important enough to
goodness.
grab.
Oh my
We were
goodness.
standing outside for an hour.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
that was
so
rough. I
funny.
completely forgot about that actually. I mean, like I remembered that, but that wouldn't be like one of the first stories to come to mind. But yeah, so a fire alarm went off in this building, and it turned out to be like almost all girls and maybe like a few rooms of boys, like maybe one floor of boys, and then yeah, so this fire alarm went off at like 2:30 or 2 a.m. and I remember like waking up and being like, I am not getting up. Like they cannot make me get up. And
That's
so
what
I
I
like,
thought.
yeah, I like tossed and turned for like 30 seconds, but it was just so loud and so blaring, and I heard people out in the hall, and I was like, dang it, I think I'm actually gonna have to get up. So I like stood up and like poked out the door, and people were like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I actually went back in the room and threw a bra on because I'm like, I am not going out with that one.
Good for you.
And then I threw
Yeah.
on shoes, but I didn't have socks on. So yeah, it was just quite the story, quite the experience.
Yeah. We
Uh,
didn't get back inside for like another hour or two, and then we just had
yeah.
to go about our normal schedule the
Yeah,
next
it
day.
was so weird, especially because like a lot of us were wondering if we were even going to like continue FSY that week. You know, we were like, if there's an actual fire, or like, are the participants going home? Like, what's happening? I don't know if you ended up talking with your girls about that, but some of my girls are like, "Are we going
They were
home?" I'm
like,
like, "I don't know." Yeah,
yeah. I remember my kids wanted to call their parents, and I
yeah.
was like, let's wait.
You were like,
I
probably
mean,
not at
some
two
of them called,
a.m.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have an experience where the Lord gave you a prompting and you acted upon it? What was that experience like?
Yeah, that is a really great question. I feel like probably lots of little things all the time that I never really realized, but one that where I did kind of realize that it was a prompting and it did make a difference was one of the weeks I was working in Salt Lake, and every week at FSY we kind of do the same stuff, right? We kind of have the same
Very set
activities
schedule.
and discussions over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to get into a rut and just kind of feel like you know what you're doing, and
So
you'll
true.
just do it the way you've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember we were talking about the first vision with Joseph Smith, and I just felt like I needed to ask a different question. I asked the girls to take a second and list what are some experiences you've had in your life where you know that you felt the spirit, you can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't like that crazy of a question or that
Mm-hmm.
different from what we normally did, but somehow like the way it was phrased, one of the girls afterward told me like, when you asked that question, I had been thinking earlier in the week that I hadn't felt the spirit in years. And then I was able to remember an experience I had in the temple where I really did feel the spirit. And so it was cool
That's
how even
incredible.
just like shifting my tone a little bit or changing some
Mm.
words
No,
could
for
reach
sure.
somebody. Yeah,
No, I actually just got chills when you said that. Not even kidding. I feel like it's
it was
interesting, like
cool.
the different. I don't know. I definitely think as a counselor that we got a little taste of like the gift of discernment, because there were a few
Yes.
times when I like had a prompting and I'm like, this makes no sense. Why would I do that? And then I did, and it
Hmm.
all worked out. So, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love when the youth were
Or a lot
brave
of
enough.
times,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, a lot of times, like, you do something, you like feel like you should do something, you do it, and then you don't really see the impact it makes. You don't ever
So
realize. So it's
true.
cool when the kids would tell you, like, that
So
did make a
true.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually connects exactly what I was going to say. I said, I think it's so cool when the kids are brave enough to come up and be like, hey, that made a difference. You know, like that stood out to me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like I had a girl write me a note, and she said, I've always been curious about how women fit in with the priesthood, and like this week you've showed me how like that is. And I was like, what?
Oh,
You know? And so, anyway,
that's
you
awesome.
know, just
Yeah.
it just like makes a difference. Like it truly 100% is a life-changing experience. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a story that you'd like to share? It could be funny, spiritual, informative, basically like any story that comes to mind that you think would be fun to share.
Oh boy.
I know, right?
I
Seriously.
know, so broad. I should have thought about this more before, but I think, ooh, I don't know if this is really like a story. I was just thinking
Go
about
ahead.
I got to work with the kids. I shouldn't call them kids. The youth
I call them
who
kids.
did
They're my kids.
like the variety show, the talent show. I got to work with
Oh
that a few times.
yeah. Yeah.
And I loved that. I just loved having the kids come
I
in
think I
and
remember you telling me
be
that.
so
Like you felt
brave.
like a fancy, I don't know, AGT judge or something.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was also so spiritual just to see people finally be, maybe finally is not the right word, but be in an environment where they felt comfortable enough to be
Yeah.
themselves and just share
Yeah, that's
something.
incredible.
Yeah, and just so spiritual to see how God gives us different talents.
Ah, so
Like watching
true.
people dance or sing makes me just feel like crying because it's
Mm-hmm.
so amazing how
No,
in tune they are with who they really are.
so
I don't know.
true. No, I love
That's,
that.
yeah.
There was one week when I think you were there that week when she like threw her flag or whatever, and it was like so
Yes.
emotional, and I was like, since when is throwing flags up in the air like this spiritual emotional experience? But you could
Hmm.
tell like she put her whole heart and soul into, you know, I don't know what it's called. Is it called color guard or winter guard or
Color guard.
something? Color
Yeah.
guard, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, incredible.
I
There's
know.
just a lot of random talents that I was like, wow, like this is awesome. Didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah. So that's not really like a specific
No,
story. I
no,
guess
I
I could,
loved it. I mean,
but
that's kind of like an
it's just a
open-ended
cool thing.
question, you know.
Yeah.
Um, okay, then I am gonna direct it. Do you have another story that is a spiritual experience when you knew like a youth was touched, or like a certain experience that comes to mind? You're like, that was one of my favorite moments of this summer.
Yeah. Hmm. I, well, this is probably, you're probably going to get this answer from a lot of people if
That's
you
okay.
do
That's okay.
the FSY thing, but um, on Thursday nights we had our testimony meetings,
Mm-hmm.
which were always a highlight because at the beginning of the week you're kind of wondering, do
Yeah.
these kids even want to be
Well,
here? Do
no,
they
none
like
of
me?
them do. Like
None of them do.
maybe 5 out of the 30 want to be there.
Literally. And then by Thursday, when they're about to go home, they've kind of turned it around and they've had spiritual experiences, which I think
Absolutely.
is amazing. Um, but this was also in Salt Lake. Sorry, it wasn't in Virginia or
Hey,
Maryland,
that's
but
okay. That's I had ones outside of Virginia that were great too. So
true. Um, I just felt like all of my girls were so, um, how do I say? They were like all in very different places because in Utah, they all had like exposure to church and grew up with it, but a lot of them were inactive or less active.
for sure.
Um, and so I wasn't quite sure what to expect going into this testimony meeting. I didn't know if any of them would share. But as I was sitting there, I would like have this impression like pray for this person to go up. And I would pray for them to go up and then they'd go up. And then it was like that the
What?
whole chain. Like each of them
No.
went up in the order that I felt like they were going to, which was
What?
crazy.
That's insane. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Anyway.
so I totally just felt chills again. That's amazing. No, I'm dead serious. That was incredible. Yeah, there were so many
Yeah.
times when I'm like, there were just weird things that like I thought about and it just all worked out. Like for example, one of these times, I was sitting with my girls. This actually was in Virginia, but it just happened to be.
Hmm.
And it was Thursday night actually, yeah. And the testimony meeting was like, it was good, but it wasn't like as amazing as other weeks, you know. Sometimes it's just like that.
Yeah. Totally.
And so I was with my girls and we were kind of doing reflect and review. And that's basically where, you look back on the day and you have the girls like write what they learned or what they felt or, that type of stuff. And the girls had shared and it was good. And then there was kind of like this lull and everyone was kind of just sitting there. And it was time to wrap up. Like I think we were like a minute over. And so they're all waiting for me to like wrap it up. And I just sat there and I got this very distinct impression, like one more girl needs to share. And I knew exactly who it was. Like I could hear it in my mind. Like this girl needs to share, say something so that she knows, like, hey, she needs to share. And so I'm like, okay, like this is really weird. And so I said to the whole group of girls, I said, I feel like one more person needs to share. And I didn't want to make her uncomfortable because she hadn't shared yet. But I said, it could be someone who's already shared. It could be someone who hasn't shared yet. But someone needs to share, and I feel like we could all benefit from what they have to say. And so we kind of sat there, and I think we sat there for like, I don't know, time's warped when you say one of those questions like that, and everyone just sits there. But
Yeah.
it was like I don't know, probably like a 15 to 30 second pause. Like no one said anything. We were all just sitting there. And then this girl spoke up, exactly who I thought it would be. And she actually started crying and explained that she was feeling really lonely and was having a really hard time. And all the girls like immediately, stood up and hugged her and she started crying. And it was just this really wonderful bonding moment where all the girls were able to be there for her and tell her that they loved her. And it was interesting because as the girls were going back to the room after we had said our prayer, I like stopped her in the hallway and I was like, hey, just so you know, like you were the one I was talking about. Like I knew you needed to share. And she said, I know. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, when you said that, the Spirit said, it's you. And she like put her hand out like this and she like moved her fingers like twinkling and she like put it towards you and she was like, the Spirit said, that's you, like it's your turn. And I was like, wow, like that's incredible. I love when the Spirit matches up, like when an experience, like I have a gift of, like if I'm given the gift of discernment for a moment and a prompting and then she's given that same prompting, and they match up, it's like, wow, like how could this, it's just magical. So
it's amazing how God speaks to everyone.
Absolutely.
When they need it in different ways.
Yes.
So crazy.
Yes. And that's one of the cool things too, is that he does speak to us differently because not all of us can hear in the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So my final question for you today is, how did your relationship with the Savior grow while as an FSY counselor?
This is such a good question.
I know, right? I'm like, how do you
I keep
this?
saying that for all of them. I feel like I was able to feel his love in a really specific way for
absolutely.
Each of the youth that I worked with. It was cool how they all came from different backgrounds to this experience that for a lot of them was kind of a foreign experience.
Oh, for sure.
They hadn't been around like a ton of members before like that or been to a church camp anyway. And just, I kind of like what we were just saying, like how the Spirit would prompt me to reach out to people in different ways. And I knew that God knew each of them individually. And I knew that the Savior had suffered for each of them individually and knew their experience. And that was really comforting because every week it's kind of this overwhelming thing to think about.
It really is.
All of the perspectives that are coming into your group. Like this kid, their parents got divorced and this kid has a really strong testimony but is shy, or this kid has never read the Book of Mormon before. Anyway,
non-members,
this huge variety.
All of the variety, for sure.
Yeah. And God knows each of them. So I feel like it was really love, and then just like the gift of patience and humility were so huge. I feel like just developing Christ-like attributes strengthened my relationship.
True. That's so accurate. Yes.
I just was given a little extra help. Definitely.
No,
and I think my last thought with humility
good.
also.
No, you're good.
You're sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you. Just with humility, the teaching style was very much like teaching in the Savior's way was kind of our method or direction.
Right.
Trying to let the kids do a lot of the talking and learn from them and have discussions instead of you just like presenting things. I feel like I grew a lot as a teacher and just as a person, hearing all of their thoughts instead of worrying so much about what I had to contribute or say. So
no, I love that. And I think that was one of the cool things is this FSY experience was just as much for the counselors as it was for the youth, I swear. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people that I've talked to, like, afterwards said, you know, FSY changed my life, you know, and I was a counselor. And so, yeah. Okay, one last thing. What was something as a counselor that, like, cracked you up about yourself? Like, for example,
Definitely
for me,
meet my spouse or something, right?
yeah, well, that's true, but
Oh,
I felt like
sorry. We
no,
got
you're good. I was thinking, like, I feel like half the time I had no idea where I was going, but I pretended to know
Mhm.
where I was going. Like, do you have a similar experience to that? Like, when you pretended to know what you were doing and you had no idea?
Yeah, definitely. All the time. It kind of felt like a mission in that
Yeah,
way.
no, for real. I say it's my mini mission because I didn't end up going, so.
Right.
Okay, well, anyway, Emma, I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been a lovely interview, my very first one, so thank you. Um, I just feel honored to be your friend and to have given you shampoo so that we could continue to talk. And it was fun to have 4 weeks together, so yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I was frozen for a second. So,
No, you were all good. I was just talking to you, so you're good.
okay. Thank you
any
so much for
any
letting
last
me come
thoughts
on.
you want
This
to
was fun.
say?
If you're on the fence about being a counselor or going to FSY as a participant, just do it.
I love it.
Um,
I love it.
you'll gain so much. That's the short that's the short final summary of
Yes,
everything. So
I love it. This is Kyra and Emma, and this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast.